Hey, everybody, welcome to this episode of The Complete Advisor. We are going to just dive right in. We were just talking soccer, so we were talking slide tackle. So I guess this is a slide tackle from me, just right at you, Vince. So if you're joining us, of course, you can watch us on YouTube. You can watch us on Spotify, Apple, and then you can listen to us just about anywhere you can find a podcast episode. But today, this is a topic that I've wanted to talk with an advisor, a successful advisor with, for a long time. And I'm going to cue it up, and then I'll introduce you, Vince. And the topic itself is keeping score, which is ironic since we were just talking soccer. But as an advisor, we have those weeks where you just crush it. New clients come in. You have a client event, and you just murder it. You have great prospects coming in. You're excited. You're doing fact finders. AUM is rolling in. You close some cases. And then there are those weeks, though, the in-between weeks where, say, it's service work, where we're doing beneficiary changes, we're doing the reviews. And that's where we just can't necessarily measure success when it comes down to dollars that came through the door, commissions that came in. So what I wanted to talk to you about as a successful advisor is how does one keep score? Because, as we were talking a little bit, money is great, and having a successful practice, that's awesome. That's what we're here for, is to have a successful, thriving practice. But there are also those times where almost for the soul, we have to have those things where we check off victories. And so it's a little bit of a soft topic, but one that I've been curious about. And so Vince Oldre from Minnesota, CFG Investments. Retirement. I am so sorry. I've got the Ron Burgundy brain going here. But you're up in the Twin Cities, where as a North Dakota, South Dakota kind of guy, that was the dream, was to go, see Paisley Park and see the Twins and the Vikings and all that move there. But so you've got a practice there. Are you just
one
upper
practice.
Midwest?
Yep.
Just one upper Midwest, or are you?
It's just in Edina. It's in basically the Twin Cities.
Nice.
And it's just me and another advisor, and I have a few staff.
Oh, very nice. So have you been, how long have you been in practice?
Since 2015, I started my own firm. Used to work for an FMO. Actually started at Allianz in 2010. Worked for an FMO, wholly owned by Allianz.
Nice.
And then 2014, went off to work for another advisor for a year. Didn't work out, which is okay. Started my own. Once I felt like I had it figured out. Be honest, I probably didn't have it quite figured out.
Whoever does.
So there's a lot of things I would do a lot differently if I knew what I know today.
Sure.
And I think our practice is, a little bit different because of that. Mm-hmm. We were big into annuities at the beginning. Now we're probably a lot heavier in the AUM side. So I know that can kind of go back and forth with
Sure.
a lot of people, but we kind of made a little bit of a pivot probably in 2018. And have been doing a lot more assets under management.
That's interesting coming from, so you're coming from, your original experience was my side of the fence and then going over. So you got to work with and see different advisors do different things, which is a great, almost like a little laboratory there to see some things that work and don't. But okay, so I laid out the topic, keeping score. So let's talk about you and your practice. Do you at the beginning, how do you keep score? Let's just start there. How do you keep score?
I keep score mostly on like a monthly basis, but really we track appointments. Mm-hmm. We do a lot of seminar marketing and we do a lot of webinar marketing. So we track our appointments. What I do look at are how many appointments are going to that third appointment. Mm-hmm. I found out that if we get them to a third appointment, we have a better chance of closing them than if they're at a second appointment. Probably not a good chance if they're not going to that third appointment.
Yeah.
So we keep track of not just the AUM or the annuities that are written. We keep track of our appointments, first, second, third, and then we also keep track of like the different locations or where did it come from. Did it come from this library or from this college? And if certain areas aren't working for us based on appointments, mm-hmm. we'll stop going to that location.
What about those weeks in between where maybe the quiet weeks? Are there any soft ways that you measure success?
Again, we look at the appointments. How many first appointments do we have? How many seconds? I know the third appointments are the ones that are going to be closer to getting business, so we track those probably the most, making sure we're getting those third appointments.
Yeah.
I don't try to look at it week by week as much as I probably look more at it per month. We'll have sometimes we'll have a 0 month. And I'll get on my team a little bit and say, why aren't we following up with these people more? So I'll go back through the data, make sure that we are making follow-up calls, making sure that appointments aren't going out too far. Sometimes we can find out that the appointments that we're booking for the second and third might be going out too far. There is a point where you can have too many appointments, which I didn't think was possible, but it does happen. So if you have too many appointments and you're pushing people out further than you should for that second or third appointment, you're probably going to lose that business.
Where do you think what's a good time amount? Like when do you feel like it's like we're pushing the gray zone and we're going to start losing them?
It has to be less than 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
If it goes too far out, my dad had a saying, time kills deals. I don't know, I know it's not his saying, but he always told me that. And so if there's too much time in between, it'll kill the deal.
I like you know what? I like phrases. I'm going to borrow that one. Time kills deals. I like that. So there's I don't know if you ever heard I think it's the third layer removed, where at first when you find a good saying, it goes, I met this guy named Vince, and his dad says time kills deals. And then the next time you say it, it's like, hey, I know this guy, and it's he says this saying, time kills deals. And then the next time it's like, hey, time kills deals. Then it becomes your own.
Yeah.
The layer of three there. That's a good phrase. So when you're looking looking at your staff, how many people do you have on staff besides the other advisor support people?
I have 3.
3. What measurements do you use to keep score with them?
How many plans they're building? They're both pair planners, and Jackie's my main assistant for me, and then she'll help the other pair planner. She's newer. She started with us this summer, and we were just too busy, so we needed 2 people. And technically, we actually send that stuff off too to help with like the Morning Stars and the we use Right Capital. We send that stuff off to other people to help build it for us. And then they put it all together at the end, and we just do our meetings. The other guy is an appointment setter, and funny story with him is he is 62, I think, 63 years old, and relates really well to people because we just focus on those that are in or near retirement. And the funny thing is, I actually got him from the other advisor I used to work with. The other advisor fired him. So,
really?
Yeah. So when I was starting out in 2015, he calls me up. He goes, "Hey, I just got fired. Do you have any work for me?" I said, "I don't have a lot of work right now because I don't have a lot of people for you to call." So I was paying him like $300 a month, and he'd just come in once a week and make calls.
That's a very specialized. Finding somebody that's good at that.
It's hard.
That's really hard. People that are good at breaking the ice or getting other people to put their guard down, especially if he's doing it on the phone, like good gravy.
Yeah, so I know a lot of advisors will book the appointment at the event, and I used to do that for my dinner seminars. I don't do dinner seminars anymore. I know, Tanner here tries to tell people to do a little bit what I try to do, but I stopped. I did a test where I did a seminar where I had the person book appointments. I had hired someone to walk around the room and book appointments for me. And I did it at a college, and I also did another event without her and see if we could book the appointments afterwards. And he was really good about being able to book the appointments after the seminar. Not everyone's blessed to have somebody to be able to do that. So after my seminar, I don't have to actually go out. So according to, keeping score, right, we'll go look at, all right, we did this event, how many people showed up, how many appointments did we book? So as long as we keep that pipeline going, I don't really worry too much about did we not have much this week, because I'll go look at what do our future meetings look like. Do we have a lot more meetings still? Now, I'd be a little bit more worried if I saw there were not a lot of meetings in the future.
Yeah. What advice would you give now? So you're rolling, almost pushing 9 years. Let's round her up for a decade. But what advice would you give back when somebody's first starting? Because that's some scary times when you're just first starting out. Any advice you'd give yourself if you could roll the clock back?
I would do marketing a lot different. When I first jumped in, I was doing dinner seminars. I was spending about $20,000 a month, and I was doing 8-9 million in annuities, and then I don't know 2-3 million in AUM at the time, and everyone thought that was really good. And I'm like, that's not that good. I don't know. Yeah, it's maybe a lot of annuity production in our FMO world.
Sure. Yeah.
That would have been a lot. But when you looked at the bank statement and you saw a bunch of money going out to pay for the mailers and to pay for all the dinners, it didn't feel very good. It didn't feel like I was making a lot of money because at the end of the day, I still had staff, I had to pay. I had to pay for rent, pay for my appointment setter. And then I started doing other marketing things like paid for leads because I heard those might work. So I was like, I want to get to 12 million. Well, I found myself getting too far ahead of myself a little bit on spending too much on marketing and not actually being efficient and looking at the ROI.
It's interesting. So do you ever watch Shark Tank?
Yeah.
Okay, I love that show myself. So when you watch it and you see a company where they're like, they've got a ton of sales, and then they'll ask like, okay, so how much are you making on that? And it's like, you can have a ton of sales, you can pour a lot of gasoline on and get a big fire, but if you're having to spend all your money on gas just to have a big fire, at the end of the day, you're just running in a circle. But so you decide, so you were looking at different things, and I interrupted you there, but.
Yeah, so 2018, I stopped doing dinner seminars. I was talking to some other advisors. They said, hey, you should do these educational workshops. My biggest fear was I'm not going to get in front of enough people. And yeah, doing the educational workshops at a college or library, you did meet a lot fewer people, but they're actually more qualified, meaning they had technically more assets. They were there for the right reasons. They weren't, the plate lickers. If I looked back at my dinner seminars, I was booking 90% of the room, but then you'd have a major fall off as far as who actually showed.
Yeah.
And then you'd have the people that did show didn't have a whole lot in assets, or they're just looking for some free advice. And so you'd still end up with the same amount of clients when you did the dinner seminar versus the educational. The big difference was the expense.
Yeah. It's funny. So we had just to go back to what you said a little bit ago about when you would set the appointments. So we've had on the show, we've had about 3 or 4 advisors on talking about how they do their events, and we had Rollo, who I don't know if we've dropped at the time of this podcast. I hadn't dropped that episode yet, so it'll probably be out at this point. But she does it at a community college, her events, and just puts her contact info up on the board, and that's it. We talked to somebody else who has somebody who follows up like the next day, but they don't stick around. Like when the thing is over, gone. Actually, we had Frank out in Colorado who, he doesn't book any appointments there, and then has somebody follow up after. But that sounds like it's on the same vein of what you're doing. But then you're having your guy call and do the follow up. Yeah,
it's very effective to do that. I know some advisors, they don't have the liberty or the benefit of being able to have someone do that. So if you don't have the staff, I'd say, book them there. And when I started out, I didn't have the staff, and I would book them there.
Yeah.
Now I have the staff or the capability of walking away. I don't walk. I'm the last one to leave technically because I have to clean up. And
you don't do like a mic drop and just walk right out of there?
No. The funny thing is, as you know, advisors have big egos. So I can say that because I was on the FMO side and now I'm an advisor, so I can beat up on myself, I guess. The thing that I noticed, though, is when I did my seminars with this other advisor, he wanted someone to come in and introduce him, make it, and have this big montage of, a video that he was on the news and whatnot. And then he would do his thing, then leave, and then I'd do the outro. And when I do the educational workshops, I don't do anything like that. I just, hey, I'm your instructor here for tonight, and I just crack a little joke and then go on. At the end, it's about 2 hours long. At the end, I say, if you want to come in and meet, great. If not a big deal. See you later. Everyone hands in a form at the end, and then I just say, mark down if you want to meet with me. If not a big deal. And so they mark down if they want to meet, mark some times, and then they hand it in, and then they leave.
And then they go.
So I don't know. There's many ways to skin the cat. I don't think there's one right or wrong. I just, for me, I don't need the ego stroke, so I don't need someone to
No, like lights down, and then maybe a spotlight stage as you come up to the front.
No, I don't do any of that.
That'd be awesome, though.
Sure. I don't know. It's just like no one likes to really talk about themselves, except for advisors.
I can't. I can neither confirm nor deny what you just said. But no, that's true. I mean, it's and that speaks a little bit in a way to kind of keeping score, because having the experience of being in a corporate office, being in an office. So like if we walk out of here, we can go, kind of shoot the shit over there. That's the third curse word on this podcast in like 60 episodes. But we can go have a cup of coffee and talk and, hang out by the water cooler. And the sad thing, not the challenge, but the thing that always is interesting as being a former advisor is there's nobody to kind of like high five except maybe your wife when you get home, and she's kind of like, wait, does that mean did you sell something or not? And it's like, no, but I talked to some people. But I don't know, sometimes that ego's got to get...
Well, when you come to the events, that, and then all the advisors are like, oh, how are you doing? Oh, great. I'm getting all these leads from this, that, and you're trying to sift. Go through the bull crap, trying to figure out what's real and what's not.
Yeah.
And so I think that was my biggest challenge earlier on, was trying to figure out what's real and what's not.
Totally. So I'll tell you a story that I don't know that I know I've never said it on the air. So when I first got into this industry, I worked for my dad. My dad had an agency. It was a captive company, and what they would do is in the first couple months, in your first 6-7 months, they would send you to the home office for this training. And where we were at, so this is old school, so don't judge me for my age, because that's ageism, Vince. Don't do it. But what they would do is every month there was a book that came out that listed every insurance agent in this company, the entire company. And so you could look somebody's production up. And so what my dad told me is, he said, when you get there to the home office and you meet people, go back to your room when you get a chance, go back to your room, flip through the book, and find look people up, and then you look for who's doing a lot of business, and you go and you listen to them. And he said, what you're going to find is the person who's talking the most during meetings probably isn't doing the most. They're doing like the least business. The person who talks the most typically does the least business at these type of things. And I'm like, it's my dad, so I'm like, okay, whatever, Dad. So I get there, sit in a couple of meetings, and there's this one guy that like has all the answers. There's this one guy that he's talking about everything. And when I got back to my room, I remembered the conversation with my dad, and I realized that one guy that wasn't selling anything, that was doing all the talking, was me. So I'm like, okay, I see exactly what Dad's talking about. And in sales, that is one of those things. You can be having the worst week ever, and somebody asks, hey, Dennis, how's it going? It's a great, it's going, things are going great. Leads coming through the wazoo, and it's like, inside you're like stressing out, which is why I'm on this side of the microphone and you're on that side.
Well, I don't know. I mean, again, like I said, there's a lot of learning moments. So
yes, there are.
At this point now, I know what to do. I can throw $100,000 into marketing, and I know what I'm going to get out. I knew that then with the marketing on the dinner seminars, but it wasn't quite, it wasn't very efficient. It wasn't a great ROI, in my opinion. Some people would say, well, you're making 3-to-1 or 4-to-1. I mean, still at the end of the day, like when you think about the time that you're giving up, and how much you're spending on people that don't really care, it just wasn't worth it. I just got more frustrated than anything else. So I figured out the digital marketing side. So I cut my mailers down to, instead of spending $5,000 or $6,000 on a mailer, we're spending $2,500. And then now I'm not paying $2,500 per night or $1,800 per night for the dinners. I'm spending $300 to rent the room.
Do you give them anything?
No.
I talked to, so we had an advisor and again, we had some of these conversations, and one of them was just like, what, do you provide anything? I'm like, nope.
I used to.
Yeah.
A couple times, the first couple rounds, I brought because I felt like I had to. Yeah. I brought bottled water and some chips and cookies, and then it just became like a hassle because I'd running late to the event. Yeah. Just because I didn't grab the chips or cookies ahead of time. Yeah. And then the other mistake I made was when I handed out the chips. Well, they're all like open up the
Crunchy.
chip bags. Yeah, I'm like, that was not a good idea. But it's funny because I do, talk to other advisors, and they're always like, hey, do you bring anything, or do you bring coffee, water? I'm like, no, I don't bring anything. They're there for themselves.
Yeah.
Like, you don't, if they will come book an appointment with you if they like you.
Yep.
If they don't like you, then they're not going to book an appointment. But just because you brought them cookies or coffee isn't going to win them over.
That's right. They're going to enjoy your famous Amos cookie, and then if they're either going to do business with you or not, cookie shouldn't be the thing that tips them over.
No.
And actually, if the cookie was the thing that tipped their decision, then more than likely they're probably not going to be a client that's going to stay with you very long, because someone's going to have a better cookie.
Well, they're gonna go to the dinner seminar.
Hey, that guy gave me a steak.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I thank you for being on. We'll cut this episode. Then we've got another topic I want to talk to you about. But Vince, thank you for being here. For everybody else, don't forget, if you get a chance, we'd love it if you'd subscribe. It's good for you. It's good for me. I'd love to hear your comments. We respond to those, and I'm always looking to get better. But you probably know this because you have a podcast. We'll name check that thing. But I was telling my wife, like, hey, did you subscribe to the podcast? Because she's on Apple, and she's like, well, she said, I don't know. And I said, well, did you just go there and hit subscribe? And she's like, I don't see a subscribe button. I'm like, honey, hit subscribe. On Apple, it's follow. So either follow or subscribe. That was a good one for me to learn. So we'll see you all in the next episode. Thank you. And Vince, thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.